The U.S. Open is coming at you hot on Thursday at Winged Foot Golf Club, and we are here to break it all down from a DFS perspective and let you know we are targeting on FanDuel for this week. Welcome on into the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here as always by Brandon Gdula. He is the managing editor of numberFire. Brandon, the U.S. Open coming up on Thursday. How psyched are you right now?
Super psyched. We got week 2 football coming. Looks like a good slate of games. We got the U.S. Open. We had a long layoff without sports, so we're going to get all of them at once, which we've been doing. But, for me, honestly, at this point, golf and football are kind of up there. So this is like my return to sports.
How dare you disrespect the Bristol night race like this? Like, it's just blatantly disregarding the most important event to happen this weekend. Like, majors are cool. NFL's cool. Bristol night race, cutoff playoff race. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's no Bristol, Jim.
Get woke, buddy. But yes, the U.S. Open this weekend, obviously, it's going to be a weird calendar year for the PGA because we had the Masters and the U.S. Open postponed. So technically, during the 2020-2021 PGA season, there will be 6 different majors. This is the first one coming up this week, the U.S. Open at Winged Foot. We're going to break it all down and let you know which golfers we are targeting for this week. But first, a scheduling reminder. We now have twice weekly NFL podcasts here on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed and on the FanDuel YouTube page. We're recording live there Monday at 9 a.m. and then Thursday at 10 a.m. if you're looking for our Week 1 recap podcast. That is posted in both those spots. So go to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed or the FanDuel YouTube page and check out all the big takeaways for Week 1 and a quick look at Week number 2 as well. Later today here on the FanDuel YouTube page, you got a waiver wire Q&A with myself and JJ Zachariason getting you set for week number 2, getting those waiver claims in, answering questions about Benny Snell, Jonathan Taylor, Naheem Hines, whatever it may be. Tune in at 3:30 p.m. Eastern for that on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook pages. Other than that, just a lot of stuff going on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. So make sure you are subscribed, and if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review as well. Winged Foot Golf Course is the site of the U.S. Open for 2020. It is 7,477 yards, and it is a par 70, so it is long for a par 70. It seems, all right, if they're going by the old U.S. Open cut rules, which I'd assume they are, I've not seen clarification that they're not. It's the top 60 plus ties make the cut after the first 2 rounds. So that means that we're going to see like less than half, like maybe like 45% to 40% of the field make the cut, which is frightening because the cut at 65 is tough enough, and it is a major field. So there are a lot of stars here. This is the first time they've played at Winged Foot Golf Course since 2006. So no course history here. You could potentially look at U.S. Open history because it tends to be at super tough courses, longer courses too, but no actual course history for Winged Foot. Brandon, when you look at this course, what stands out to you as being things we need to emphasize for our golfers?
Well, like you said, we haven't seen it since 2006. Jeff Ogilvy won that at 5 over par. That is over par, not under par. I'm sure you've all probably heard that by now, but that's pretty wild. Phil Mickelson, Jim Furyk, Colin Montgomery were all 6 over to finish second. So should be a bit of a tester. The rough is going to trend toward about 5 inches. The greens, which are about 80% POA. So I'm just going to use POA splits, keep it simple. They're at a 13 on the stimp meter, so they're going to be pretty quick. And if you look at the greens, they are massive. They're very hilly. They go from back to front. If you're a bad putter, which is pretty much, if we like you on this podcast, you're probably a bad putter. But these guys might look very lost. I think even good putters can look lost at times looking at these greens. So I think you either have to have putting or be so good with your approach shots and wedges that you can kind of stick it close. So I know that's kind of an either or. It's almost binary, but I think you either have to have dialed in irons so that you have easier putts, or your putter is just on fire. So and putting was really important here in 2006. Birdies going to be few and far between, so if you're thinking about this from a FanDuel perspective, which is what we're doing here, there aren't going to be a lot of fantasy points derived from birdies. So it's going to be almost like all of the fantasy points come from finishing position. Like a huge amount of points will come from finishing position. So now more than ever, you will need your golfers to finish well. It's not going to be a situation where someone goes birdie bogey to finish 20th, but made so many birdies that he has a ton of FanDuel points. So keep that in mind for this week. And like you said, it's a really long par 70, so distance is definitely a plus, but being super inaccurate is not going to work for me this week. The videos are out there if you look. It's a lot easier to find videos of how the rough looks than confirmation on the cut and anything like that, because it's how golf works at this point. But I think accuracy off the tee is going to matter a lot. Distance is a plus again, but accuracy is super important. So my key stats for this week are going to be strokes gain approach, driving accuracy, strokes gain putting, specifically on POA or just putting in general. Strokes gain around the green as well, because you are going to need to scramble and save par, and then bogey avoidance. So a little bit different for me this week from what we usually see, but I think I'm okay with these 5 stats at the top.
And I'm going a totally different direction because I am emphasizing distance because of how long this course is. I know that what you're saying is correct. You can get messed up in a big way if you miss the fairway, and that's a negative. However, I feel like the dink and dunk type situation is not necessarily going to be something that's going to actually allow you to ever make up. Let's say you get a couple of bogeys. You're not going to be able to make up that ground if you're not getting distance off the tee. So in a weird way, it makes me feel better about your ability to make up for mistakes if you have that distance, because you can actually potentially make some birdies. So that's why I decided to focus on that. I have scrambling in there, which I try to avoid because it's influenced by putting. It's influenced by other things. Yeah,
saving par is not usually what you're looking for fantasy performance.
Exactly. And so I try to avoid it because I try to avoid more so because of the putting than due to the saving par. But I think for here it does make sense, especially if I'm going to emphasize distance. I need to find some guys who can make up for it when they mess up effectively. So I am going for distance this week. It's going to be a very risky strategy, but I guess my mindset is I play more tournaments, and everyone in this field carries a lot of risk with the low cut odds. I want someone who has the upside to do really well if they make the cut. And I think that's the mindset. It's going to be a very volatile mindset. So I could very well have 0 lineups cash this weekend, but I think it's kind of the way I have to go just based on the inherent lack of a floor that everyone has.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 things. One, nobody's really safe this week. Yeah. It's how it works. I mean, one bad hole is going to be enough to derail some of the best golfers. And if the putter just doesn't fall, that can be enough to separate with the tough cut numbers. And number 2, what you were talking about with distance and making things up. It's something I talk about often, but the harder a course is, the more it helps you to be a really good golfer. Because what I say is, if it's an easy par 4, just about every golfer in a field can birdie that. If it's a super long, super tough par 4, very few guys are going to be able to birdie that. And honestly, not everybody's going to be able to make par. Right. So the ability to score, if the score is minus 20 or 20 under par, more guys are in the mix. Here, it's not really going to play that way. And that means you can't really just load up on stars and scrubs, because the scrubs probably aren't going to be able to contend.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to look at it. And again, when you look at the win odds for a lot of these golfers, they fall off the table pretty quickly. So that also makes it a little bit tougher. You've got guys we like and names we like in the 8,000 range, but can they do it against this field and make the cut where only the top 60 out of 140 or so make it? that's a different discussion. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind for sure. We're going to take a look at which golfers are coming into the U.S. Open hot in just 1 second. But first, FanDuel is always giving users a chance at glory and a big payday, and the Ringers Mega Contest is the latest way they're giving you more ways to win. It is easy. Just make 5 picks against the spread, including the double down, every week. The top 100 users at the end of the season will compete for $25,000 in prizes during the playoffs. And the best part, it's free to enter. Week 1 is already in the books. So what are you waiting for? To enter for free, visit playfree.fanduel.com/theringer, playfree.fanduel.com/theringer. Eligibility restrictions apply. Because there is no course history for this week, we are going to do 6 different current form golfers whose form is interesting / noteworthy, whether it be good, whether it be a lack of data for some golfers, or just some golfers we find interesting for this week. And your first guy is Xander Schauffele, who is interesting not just because of the form, but also because we know what he can do in tough fields. So what do you see with Xander Schauffele at $11,400?
Yeah, so Xander is 5th in salary on FanDuel behind Dustin Johnson, Jon Rahm. If you want to talk about current form, those two guys definitely are worthy of being in this discussion. Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, probably also worthy for different reasons. Not that JT is struggling by any means, but Xander, he's been close for a while now. The current form is on point as well. According to Data Golf, Schauffele is 3rd in per round strokes gained over the past 5 events when adjusted for field strength. And he's, despite being that good, he's barely playing above his baseline because he's so consistently good. He finished 10th at the PGA. He was 2nd at the Tour Championship. And if you remove the starting scores, he won that. I know that's something that a lot of people are talking about, but he has 8 straight top 25 finishes. And in 16 events in 2020, he has 14 top 25s. Now, some of those are small fields, I know, but that's still wild consistency. Plus, the U.S. Open, definitely not a joke, especially not this week. And faring well at majors in general is not the worst variable to consider for an upcoming major. Schauffele has played 3 U.S. Opens. He's finished in order 5th, 6th, and 3rd. His irons have been hit or miss. I know he can save himself with his putter sometimes, but recently we've been talking about golfers who can lead the field in strokes gained tee to green and strokes gained putting, because if you can kind of have that combination, not that you will do it often in the same week, but if you have that ability, that is super enticing. Xander, no doubt, can do that. So do you like Xander, or is there some Schauffele fatigue at majors? What are your thoughts on Xander at 11-4?
I guess I was surprised when I pulled up the odds and saw how short he was, but then when you dig in, it's justified, because we were quibbling back and forth about distance versus accuracy, but Xander is kind of like that gif of the taco commercial where the little girl's like, why don't we have both? When he needs to hit a fairway, he can, but he can also bomb it when he can. So I feel like that's really valuable for this week, having the ability to do both. And there aren't a lot of guys who can do that. Jon Rahm can. Rahm fits that for sure, but Schauffele is up there as well. So I would say Xander is deserving of being where he's at, but I'm kind of used to Xander being undervalued when it comes to majors, from a salary perspective. He is not that. So I think as opposed to being undervalued, he has an appropriate salary. It is one that I am in on, but it's not like I'm going to build around him as my number one guy for this week. So I think that Xander is appropriately placed where his salary is. I don't have him number 1 in that tier, but he is in the mix and someone I want to make sure I have exposure to. So I'd say even though it's kind of surprising to see him where he is, it makes sense, and he's still a good play despite that.
Yeah, and the thing with Xander is, he's been on record of saying he likes difficult courses. He does not care for birdie fests, and that's pretty much shows in how good he's been at majors. So I think it fits him really well. I don't think his salary is too high. It's definitely not too low. The problem is we have Jon Rahm at $400 more in salary. We have a lot of other options in the 10,000 range. So it's very difficult to put my finger on what I'm going to do with Xander, because he could be very popular because everyone kind of knows what Xander can do. He leads in fan share tags on fansharesports.com already. So I think from a process play, there's really no floor this week. I think Xander's floor is really high still.
Yeah.
He can miss the cut. Every guy can miss the cut in this field, but I like Xander a lot. I just am probably going to prioritize Justin Thomas and John Rahm when I can.
I agree. So I was talking about how he wasn't number one in that tier. Like, I have both those guys ahead of him. So that's why he's not number one in that tier for me. I think that it could be interesting to kind of, I know that it's tiring to hear us say, look for players who are under the radar, but like, there's a reason we do that. And I think it's especially true this week, where there are a handful of golfers who could realistically be the number one golfer at the end of the week. Like, I know Rory's form isn't great, but like, if Rory winds up being the guy who goes overlooked this weekend, I am comfortable enough with his profile to go there. So if Xander does wind up, like if we're on Wednesday night and Xander's still number one in tags on FanShare, that's a concern. It'd be a red flag for me. It's not a reason to full avoid, but like, it's a concern, and it may cause me to go elsewhere.
Yeah. I think game theory is going to be huge this week, just because I know if a golfer is on 35% of lineups and he wins, it's not like you get an edge by not rostering that golfer. You're going to need to roster that golfer. But if a golfer is 35% rostered and misses the cut, which is very likely, or it's not very likely, but it's certainly possible.
More likely than usual.
Yeah, it's more likely than usual. You have to account for that. And you get such a leg up if 35% of lineups are going in at least 5 of 6 without a stud golfer.
Absolutely. Let's move on to our next current form guy, which for me is Adam Scott. The form for Adam Scott since the end of the COVID layoff it's just okay, and it's also limited, but he still has an interesting profile, which is why I wanted to discuss him here. Scott has played 3 PGA Tour events since the end of the layoff. He has finished between 20th and 60th in each of those. That's not great, but it's not horrifying. He has not gained more than 1.6 strokes tee to green, but he also hasn't been lower than 0. So basically what he's been is super nondescript in this short-term form. But the overall stats profile is pretty fun. Scott is 29th in distance, 16th in approach, 37th in POA putting over the past 100 rounds. He's also good at working his way out of jams, which I do value for this week. So Scott is $9,900. And Brandon, I like his long-term profile. Does what you've seen in the 3 events that he has played give you reason to ignore the long-term stats for Adam Scott?
I always prefer long-term form over short-term form. And that is always kind of the number one thing when it comes to Adam Scott, because he doesn't play a lot. Yeah. He's used to kind of playing every so often, which is definitely noteworthy. Long-term, if we want to talk about long-term form, very few golfers are even close to Adam Scott's profile there, just in terms of playing above expectation for a super long time. The putter is always, hit or miss. That's the case for a lot of guys, but I think Scott is in that salary range where you can kind of live there and build a really balanced lineup, which I'm going to talk about a lot probably, because I think that's really enticing this week. That being said, I prefer a few other golfers to Adam Scott straight up, specifically Patrick Reed and Tyrrell Hatton. So I don't think I'm going to be substantially invested in Adam Scott, but he is going to be someone in my player pool, at least early in the week.
I think I like him more than Reed. Reed is getting a lot of buzz on FanShare, and it's not that pushes me away. It's more so I like the ball striking numbers a lot more for Scott. And like, it's hard to know because like it's not recent data. But I think that's what would put me towards Scott over Reed. But I also understand that, like, I agree, it's a good tier. There are other good options there. Hatton's fun. I like Hatton. But I think that Scott's pretty noteworthy and someone, like, I'm probably not going to get there in a cash game, but, like, I want to keep my eye on him for tournaments for sure. Another guy who I think is similar to Xander Schauffele in that his salary may seem surprising at first, But then when you dig in, it makes a lot of sense, is Daniel Berger. And Daniel Berger's like had a high salary for a long time, but he's also been producing at a high salary for a long time. So Brandon, talk to me about Berger. He is 10-7 for this week. What do you see with him recently outside of him just being disgustingly good?
Yeah, I mean, this field is loaded with studs, and one of them, I think, is Daniel Berger. I think he belongs in that conversation. I think he should be considered close to that top tier of golfers, not DJ and Rahm and JT, but everybody else pretty much. I think he's kind of on that level right now. His salary does reflect that to a degree. He is 10-7 on FanDuel, but he's got the form. I think he fits the course well enough. I like the salary. Berger, this is always a bit arbitrary and fluky, I know, but he's the only golfer to rank top 25 in strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, and strokes gained putting on POA. The POA splits come over a 100-round sample. The other two are 50 rounds, but if you combine all those ranks, DJ's at 43 because he's 8th in putting, Berger's at a 52, and JT is at 69 to be 3rd there. But like, I know it's arbitrary, but Berger kind of does. He can hit the ball off the tee with his irons, and he can putt. That's really easy to get behind. The biggest knock on Berger is distance. He's 87th in the field there over the past 50 rounds, but 16th in fairways hit, fairways gained, I should say, over the past 50. So I think accuracy is certainly viable, especially if you're not outside the top like 120 or 100 in distance, which, you know, Berger's not going to gain distance necessarily, but he should hit fairways, and that should be a big leg up. So I really have no issues if Daniel Berger is my second highest salaried golfer. So it sounds like maybe you're not quite as high on Daniel Berger. What are your thoughts here?
No, like I said, I think that it's once you dig in more, he makes a lot of sense. He's not, again, it's kind of similar to the Xander discussion where like I think he's justified in where he's at and it's appropriate. The only thing I have is that he's not number one in that tier for me because like if I'm going to take a guy who doesn't have like elite distance but does well elsewhere, like would you rather have Webb or Berger?
I think Webb might win this week, honestly.
Okay.
And Patrick Cantlay pretty much always plays.
Was the other one too.
he always plays well at tough courses. So,
like that was that. My two questions were: would you rather go with Webb among the guys who aren't super long? But then also for me, if I'm valuing distance, that pushes me towards Cantlay. So Berger inherently winds up being third on that list. However, having that guy, that second person be in the 10,000 range gives you more flexibility to avoid the danger zone. So I think I'll actually be in this range a decent amount. And as a result of that, despite the fact that Berger is third for me, he's likely still someone to whom I will have exposure. So I think that Berger's a good play. He is a firm third for me. I would go Cantlay 1, Webb 2, Berger 3. That's high enough, though, where I'm going to use him. So I think I'm decently good with Daniel Berger.
I think if you say DJ, Rahm, Rory, JT, and Xander won't win, I think you could roster all three of these guys in a lineup.
Yeah, because then you're living in the low 9,000 range. Or if you go like one $8,500 golfer, that could work too. 8,500 specifically. But I think that's interesting, and I could be okay with that too. So yes, I am interested in that strategy as well. Let's move on to Harris English because English, kind of like Berger, is not super long off the tee, which is for me it's pretty scary. But English can mop up after the first shot, and it has helped him perform really well recently. English did miss the cut in his first event after the COVID layoff, but in 8 events since then, he has not finished outside the top 40 and has 6 top 20s. He was 23rd in another, so not even an arbitrary cutoff there. 6 top 20s and a 23rd. A lot of that work has come via his approach shot. English has gained 3.7 or more on approach in half of those 8 events. That is in addition to the always good short game. He leads the field in scrambling the past 50 rounds. He's 17th in POA putting the past 100. So English isn't going to gain off the tee. Like I know, looking at his ball striking stats in advance on Sunday, I'm going to see like hopefully a 0 in the strokes gained off the tee category. And that does matter. But I still think he can do enough elsewhere where I am okay with him at $9,400. So where do you come down on Harris English, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, he fits if you're going with the distance doesn't matter if you can't hit a fairway kind of angle, because he's going to hit the fairways. He can scramble, field leader there. You mentioned that he's good on POA with the putter. It's just a really good short game. And honestly, if you take some like long-term form, and I used to do this a lot, but I went through and just looked at, adjusted strokes gained and compared it to FanDuel salaries to try to see like what his salary should be. He is a little underpriced for how good he's been.
Okay.
That being said, I think that he's not a priority play for me. If I'm in the low 9,000 range, I'll probably just go with Abraham Answer. But
sorry, I put him in my player picks. I didn't realize you were on him.
Oh, that's fine. But what I was going to say is, I think I really want to. I kind of view a drop off at 9,500 and below with Jordan Spieth. I'm fine with Gary Woodland. I probably won't prioritize him, but Jordan Spieth, Harris English, Sung J M, Shane Lowry, Louis Oosthuizen, Answer, Cam Champ, Sergio, Phil. I don't really like this range a lot, and I really love Matthew Fitzpatrick, Matthew Wolff, Victor Hovland, Tyrrell Hatton. So I might kind of skip this range altogether for the most part. So I think that's also in the back of my mind when I look at Harris English. Even though I think he's probably deserving of a little bit of higher salary, I probably just won't be here a ton.
Like, I agree. So I think that if you think about the salary tiers in terms of like a heat map this week, I would say the hottest parts, and like the parts that I like most compared to usual, are upper 9,000s and the mid to high 10,000s. And the cold zone is like the low 9,000s. Like, I agree, Answer's a good play. He's there, and I think that English works too. But as far as like volume of players I want to use, it is fairly slim. So that's why when we were talking about using the 3 10,000 guys, and I mentioned dropping down to 85 for one guy and then getting – that's why I want to avoid this tier if I can, unless I'm using Answer, which I'm okay with.
Is it Thomas Peters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
I had a feeling it would be Thomas Peters.
I talk about Thomas Peters twice in this podcast. Spoiler alert. So yes, of course.
So much for the suspense. I ruined it.
I know, you ruined the whole podcast. So instead, let's talk about another mid $8,000 golfer. That's Will Zalatoris. We got a couple of golfers coming up from the Korn Ferry Tour who are very interesting, who have good profiles. Not all of them are in the player pool yet on FanDuel, but Zalatoris is. What do you see with him entering this week?
Yeah, we got some Korn Ferry Tour guys. We got some European Tour guys coming in over as well. But I mean, Zalatoris has been tearing up the Korn Ferry Tour all season, and he can launch it. So if you're looking for distance, if you're playing that angle, Zalatoris fits. He averaged about 317 yards on his drives, which is 32nd on the Korn Ferry Tour, just because this guy's going to launch it pretty much. But obviously no strokes gained data from the Korn Ferry Tour, but he led the Korn Ferry Tour this past season in ball striking, which is total drive rank, which is distance combined with accuracy rank. Then you rank those, plus your greens and regulation rank. So it's a lot of ranks. It's a lot of unadjusted stats, but we know that relative to the Korn Ferry Tour guys, he hits it far, hits it pretty straight, and he led the field in greens and regulation. So all that is to suggest that he can probably translate that game to the PGA Tour pretty well. The putter is always going to be the question for whether that translates. But since the return, he has 10 straight top 20 finishes with a win and 7 top 10s. So if you want to talk like current form, I know you have to adjust that all for field strength. But based on Data Golf's field adjusted total strokes gained, Zalatoris has gained 1.21 strokes on like the average golfer in 2020. Tiger Woods is at a 1.23. Sung J M is at a 1.21. Victor Hovland 1.14, just for some context. So if you believe that those are adjusted properly, that's a pretty good golfer. He's not minimum salary or anything. He's 8,400, but I think we can always get a little ahead of ourselves with the unknown when it comes to majors. I think Zalatoris is a little bit different. So I do like Zalatoris at 8,400. So are you going to be taking some flyers on these guys, or are you into the more proven options?
Well, I mean, like the thing with the proven options is that they've proven they don't have a floor. Like Zalatoris is the same salary, I think, as Jason Kokrak, and Jason Kokrak's been really good recently. But we also know that Jason Kokrak can't hit a putt, and like we know the downsides of them. We don't know the downsides of these guys. That's probably a good thing. So I know that sounds like a weird way to phrase it, but what I'm saying is that a known entity, when it's a known entity that doesn't have a super complementary or great profile, I'd rather take the risk on the less known entity, which in this case would be Zalatoris. So Zalatoris is not my favorite mid 8,000 because again, we're talking Thomas Peters like 15 times, or I am at least. But I would say he's going to be someone I'm going to use. So I am very okay taking those risks. Because again, my mindset is like, no one has a floor. So why would I target Ches Reavie? Because I think his floor is better when I know that, like, I know Ches was great at the US Open last year, but like, I know I have, like, there's a more limited range of outcomes with Ches. I'd rather go with the wide range of outcomes this week, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and last year at Pebble, not quite the same as what we're going to get this week. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I'm with you. It's one thing to take a stab on some name you don't know, but Zalatoris at least has been doing it for a while. And frankly, according to like Data Golf, the Korn Ferry Tour is as good, or if not like better than the European Tour. So I'm more inclined maybe to trust Zalatoris than some European Tour flyers.
What a brilliant transition into Thomas Peters, who is doing really well on the Euro Tour. This is the first time Thomas Peters has been on a PGA DFS slate since July of 2019. So it's been a hot second, but it's not as if Peters just been like off. He's just been playing on the Euro Tour, and he's been doing pretty well there. For the 2020 season, Peters is second on the tour in scoring average and second in approach. He played 2 events in August, coming off of the layoff for him. He was third at the Celtic Classic. He was 15th at the Wales Open. So we just don't have a lot of data on Peters relative to U.S. fields recently. The long-term stats on Peters are great. Are you willing to take a swipe on him at $8,500?
Peters is always, I mean, I feel like every time he's in a field, we talk about him. And I understand why. I don't do a whole lot of Euro Tour stuff unless it's like there's nothing else going on. So I can't really speak to saying that I know how Thomas Peters is faring currently. I know the finishes are good, but I'm going to go back to Data Golf for their field adjusted strokes gain numbers. He's at a 0.51. Brooks Koepka in 2020 is 0.47. Cam Champ 0.56. So, I mean, Peters is better than like your average golfer. Matthew Wolff's 0.57. So if you just trust this data and trust that Peters is going to bring that level to the field, he's going to be salary is too low. So I'm not out on Peters, but I do think I prefer Zalatoris. And I mean, we also have like, I think I talk about him later, but Sebastian Munoz is 8,000. Like he
did really well at the Tour Championship after we talked him up at like 5% roster rate or something like that.
Like it comes down to like, are we just off of Sebastian Munoz now because there's like Will Zalatoris is here? It's like, yeah, but Sebastian Munoz has been like playing against these same guys at the top for a while. And I'm not saying he's been fantastic or flawless, but I mean,
I like Munoz.
Lonto Griffin's 82.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what a lot of this comes down to as well.
You had me at Munoz. You lost me.
That's surprising, but yeah. I mean, it comes down to
I had Munoz in my player picks literally like 2 weeks ago. What do you mean?
Yeah, but I didn't know you hated Lonto.
I don't hate Lonto. I just like Munoz more, and I like Peters more. So
yeah, I think it comes down to.
Go ahead.
I think it comes down to are you trusting what these guys have done on the PGA Tour, or are you looking for the new thing? Probably we should trust the PGA Tour guys, but
Peters isn't a new thing.
Yeah.
Like we've seen him do it against these fields. It's just been a while. And while he's been gone, he's been putting up good numbers in the Euro Tour.
Yeah.
So
I think Munoz is a good play this week.
Do you want to do Munoz versus Peters head-to-head bet based on FanDuel
you
points?
know it.
Okay, that's our first one. Book it. You have Munoz, I have Peters. Straight up FanDuel points for this week. I'm not giving you Zalatoris because I think we can talk down on betting markets sometimes because sometimes they'll chase course history and stuff like that and can be kind of weird. However, there's a lot of value in the knowledge of crowds and betting markets kind of do that. So Zalatoris being 120-1 is valuable information. It means that we should have more confidence in him because people who are putting their money on the line have confidence in him. So I think that helps Zalatoris, and that would probably have me put Zalatoris ahead of Peters as a result of that. So I'd say Zalatoris, Peters, Munoz among the guys in the mid to low 8,000 range. I'm guessing you go Zalatoris, Munoz, Peters.
Yeah, and I might put Lonto over Peters.
Disrespectful. Do you want a second head-to-head? No, I don't want to tie it all to Peters. Let's move into Bookmaker Odds. Speaking of Bookmaker Odds, Dustin Johnson is a favorite at FanDuel Sportsbook. He is plus 850 to win this U.S. Open. John Rahm is on the island in second. He is 10-1. We get to Justin Thomas and Xander Schauffele at 14-1. Colin Morikawa Bunga and Rory McIlroy are 18-1. Patrick Cantlay off Cantlay is 27-1. And we get to Bryson DeChambeau and Webb Simpson at 28-1. Daniel Berger is 30-1. You got Hideki Matsuyama, Tommy Fleetwood, and Tony Finau all at 33-1 to close out the top group. And we've gone this entire podcast without mentioning, at least at length, Dustin freaking Johnson, who is a favorite. So let's do that here. Brandon, what are you doing with DJ in tournaments this week? What's your exposure level? Are you avoiding? How are you handling it?
So I'm definitely not fading DJ.
I'm relieved to hear that. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I will fade a lot of plays because that's just how I roll sometimes, for better or for worse. But I think this is a week where you have to probably get a medium-sized player pool, not a super small one, not a super large one. But I think you also have to cap your exposure to every golfer at, I would say, 50%, give or take, depending on exactly how many lineups you're playing. So I can't go 60+% on any golfer I love just because the probability of a missed cut is just too great. So for DJ, he will be probably my most rostered golfer.
Okay.
Just because the salary is not substantially greater than everyone else's.
Yeah.
And it just is very difficult to pass up what DJ can do. He's a great POA putter. There's no reason that he can't do this week.
So I think the way that I'm thinking about this is in what percentage of lineups will I pass over the top group entirely? The answer is very small. I would like to live in I would like to have probably one out of Xander, Rory, JT, Rahm, and DJ in almost every lineup.
I was going to say, if you make a golfer with Rory's ball striking and Xander's short game, that'd be something, but really that's just Xander.
Zori McAuliffe? I don't know. We'll figure that out. We'll figure that one out. But I think that I'm going to have one of them in each lineup. So it's basically just kind of ranking those 5 and then a slide rule type thing of how high do I put them? Because I can have 2 of them in the same lineup at times, but I also do value that 10,000 range. So realistically, I'm averaging about 1.2 of them per lineup. I know this is very stupid, but I would say DJ will be the guy 40%. And I acknowledge that, what are we thinking, roster A for DJ? 30% in this field?
So last year at the US Open, DJ was the most popular golfer at 31.1% on FanDuel, followed by Webb at 29.4, Tiger 26, Brooks 24.8, Rory 22, Matt Kuchar 20.6, and those are the only golfers above 20%. So really flat.
So if I go 40% DJ, I'm not going to be that much overweight relative to the field, but I also agree with your sentiment that like it's okay to have more spread out exposures this week just because of the way the field works. So I think I'm probably going to wind up with DJ at 40%. For a cash game, DJ is in there, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I agree. Let's talk about that second group. The second group after DJ, we got Rahm, JT, Xander, Morikawa, and McIlroy. There are 5 golfers there with odds between 10 and 20 to 1. Which of them has the best chance to give DJ a run for his money?
Wait, does that include Rahm?
Yes.
And then John Rahm.
Okay. Tell me why.
Rahm has the 2 wins at really tough courses. Rahm is, if you compare him to like the other top tier golfers, he is an elite putter. He's really an elite putter compared to everybody, but he putts really well compared to the big hitters. His irons aren't quite as good, but they are definitely good enough to keep him in something like this. And his around the green game is also really good. So he's like kind of an anomaly among the big hitters where he can save himself with the short game. Mm-hmm. And he can also turn good ball striking into phenomenal rounds because he can just do everything. So he's like Xander with more distance and just frankly like more raw ability. So I think it has to be Rahm, which is not really a fun take to have.
Yeah.
But if it was somebody else between 10 and 20, that's like a short list, right?
It's 5 people. There are 4 others. I think it's JT. Just because we know, like I know the putting's not going to be as good as Rahm's, but I feel very confident in JT's ability to work his way out of jams. I love the second and third shots. The distance for JT is really good. It's not quite as good as Rahm. He doesn't have the same accuracy, but JT, when he needs to, can hit fairways, and we know that. Like his accuracy overall is 83rd, but he's 24th in good driver, which shows you that when he needs to, he can hit a fairway. So yeah. I would say JT 1, Rahm 2, but it's very close.
So what happened was I had sorted it for golfers whose odds have shifted, and that made the list really short. But I would consider Xander over JT.
Okay.
This week.
I think I'd rank this 5-person tier. JT 1, Rahm 2. It's between I don't want to pick between Rory and Xander because I like both of them.
Well, you have a back and forth with each of them.
Should I text them and ask them how they're feeling? Like, does the new baby swag carry over into the next event as well, or what's the ruling on that?
I honestly don't know. But I think
we should consult someone.
Yeah, I think it would.
Okay, so Rory has to be number 1 overall then.
I mean, there's got to be like a grace period where if he wins, it's because of the baby.
Yes.
Like if he wins like the Masters,
but if he struggles, it's because he's not sleeping because of the baby.
So if he wins the
Masters, I have
Masters,
a baked-in excuse.
Yeah, it's going to be because he had a baby.
Yes.
So
if he wins, it's because of the baby. If he misses the cut, it's because he wants more time with the baby, and he's just a very generous father. Yeah. So I'm going to go Rory for the baked-in excuse. What odds movement have you seen in the past couple of days that may indicate who is drawing some interest in this field?
I mean, everybody moved for the most part, aside from Rahm and Xander at the absolute top. I pulled stuff over the weekend. DJ was 7.5. He's now 8.5. I won't go through like everything. Yeah. Rory is notable from 12 to 18. Colin Morikawa 16 to 18. Patrick Cantlay 20 to 27. Bryson DeChambeau is. I think we need to talk about that maybe. 16 to 28. If you're playing the distance angle, obviously Bryson fits, but we'll talk more about this, I guess, then when Jim fills us in. Webb from 22 to 28. Patrick Reed of note, one of the few guys whose odds have shortened, 37 to 34. So you mentioned that he's getting tags on FanShare. It's weird to think Patrick Reed might be popular, but again, draft percentage is probably going to be pretty flat this week with so many options. So we got to keep that in mind. I don't think anybody will approach 40% really. Tyrrell Hatton, 37 to 48, which I don't care about because I like him. Tiger Woods and Matthew Fitzpatrick, 41 to 48 as well. And then, Adam Scott, 33 to 40. But it just kind of goes on and on like that. A lot of the golfers who were like 50 to 1, Hovland, Ricky Fowler, Matthew Wolff, they all fell to about 65 each. Paul Casey, 50 to 70. So it's a lot of that. But if you want someone whose odds have shortened, Will Zalatoris fits from 270 to 120. But Jason Kokrak, 150 to 140 as well. He's got all the chips in. He's got pocket aces, pocket trip kings, and then a couple of queens, a few jokers.
Poker. Is this
some
instructional
cards as well, but that's all in his hand. So, yeah. I mean, Kokrak's not the worst play, but
I'm not using Kokrak. Okay, let's talk for a second about Rory and DeChambeau, because among the golfers with salaries of 11.3 or higher, which is all right, let's go 11. Where's more? Yeah, 11,000 or higher. Those two guys are lowest in FanShare tags. I can very easily justify both of them if I play the distance angle. So I think that if I'm trying to be a little bit different, I play that distance angle and go Rory paired with DeChambeau, get the baby swag, get the big arm swag in the same lineup. I kind of don't mind that. Is that going too far in trying to be different from the field?
No, by no means is playing Rory and Bryson like wild. And that's the thing. I talk about this all the time. Every time we get like a tough field, it's if very few people are going to play Bryson or Rory, it's not like these guys have no shot to win. That is absolutely not true. So what you're getting is leverage, because if Bryson wins and is on 10% of lineups and Dustin Johnson, who's on 30%, finishes like 25th, your lineup, if you play Bryson and that happens, you have such an easier shot to hit a big prize. So it's not saying, you know what, don't play anybody whose salary is above 10,000. Like, that's not what it is. It's playing Rory and Bryson. So I'm not going to do that because I don't like Bryson a lot this week. But if you're playing the distance angle, I mean, there are plenty of golfers who fit. Tony Finau would fit there. He's not as
putting scares me a lot. I know it's contradictory to say I love Rory and then say putting scares me, but like, kind of.
I get you. But I'm saying I think what can work this week is try some lineups where it's like, okay, maybe distance isn't the key this week, and maybe it's hitting fairways.
It's an archetype stack. Yeah, we talked about this like last week too. Like, do archetype stacks. I think that's fully in play.
Yeah, so I think that fits, and if you're going to do that, obviously Rory and Bryson can be paired together. But I mean, again, all it takes is not playing Xander if he's going to be on 30% of lineups, and just playing Rory if he's on 18%, 15%. I don't know. And that is enough to differentiate as well. So I don't think it's crazy if that's what you're asking.
Like, if I have a single entry lineup, which single entry is really fun for this week, I think personally, I might go that route. I might just play the distance angle and like go not giving out full lineups, but Rory, Bryson, Matthew Wolff. We can party with that. I might.
And you get that. And Wolf's the best driver out of the three, so.
There we go. Let's party. Weather for this week. There is a chance of rain overnight, Thursday into Friday. That will bring some high winds with it on Friday, but they're going to be high the entire day. So you're not getting like low winds in the morning, high winds in the afternoon. It's going to be high between 10 and 13 the entire day, never getting higher or lower. So that should keep things pretty even among all tee times. Tee times are now out, by the way. They came out this morning. So if you want to check those out, you can. Morikawa is being dragged down by Tiger and JT. I just thought you should know that. Winds will be present on Saturday morning, but again, max out around 12 miles per hour. So I don't think you need to play like a windy angle here. Slightly windier conditions than normal, but nothing outrageous. And the track may be a bit wet Friday morning, but everything else is good to go. So hopefully that slows down the greens a little bit from the craziness that we're expecting to see. Let's dive into our player picks for the U.S. Open. Brandon, in the upper tier of salaries, who are you targeting on FanDuel for this week?
So I love Dustin Johnson. I think he's probably just the number one play. But I think Jon Rahm is right there, and I don't want it to seem like there's a big gap between the two. And if you can't play DJ, I think it's fine to play Jon Rahm. He's been nearly good as DJ recently, or possibly better, depending on how far back you go in the form. But I mean, he has 2 recent wins at tough courses. He won the Memorial at Muirfield Village and the BMW at Olympia Fields. We're going to get tough conditions this week. Rahm gained strokes in those tough conditions. He's 7th over the past 50 rounds on courses where the scoring is difficult, or rounds, I should say, more specifically, according to Fantasy National. Separating him over JT for me is that Rahm, I can bank on the putter more easily. He's 12th in POA putting, whereas JT is 50th. But talk to me about JT because I know he's going to be your number one.
Yeah, he doesn't really have holes in his game, which I think is something you could say about Rahm too. So like that's not a differentiator, but I think that's fun at a course where things could be really crazy. I like that a lot. JT 24th in distance, 2nd in approach, and 3rd in scrambling the past 50 rounds. That's according to Fantasy National. POA is also the best putting surface for JT by a pretty wide margin. We always talk about like the ball striking we know will be good. We just need the putting to be better, and like it should be better this week than usual, at least. Thomas's approach game came back to life at the Tour Championship, gained 2.7 there after back-to-back just kind of okay events leading into it. The putting, again, is the one kind of weakness, and it'll be less of a weakness this week than usual. How many times can I say weak in one sentence? But JT is the top guy that I want here after DJ. Because, again, DJ, I agree. We've talked about it. We've explained it. I put JT over Rahm, but I think that I understand the case for Rahm and don't have a lot of pushback to give you. I just like JT more.
So let's say you can play one of those. Let's say the top 5. So we'll throw Xander in
what format?
Salaries. And we're going to say, I'm going to say single entry.
Okay.
You can only roster one because I think we're sitting here saying we like all 3 of them. We like Xander as well. But if you can play one of DJ, Rahm, Rory, JT, and Xander in a single entry, who is it going to be?
JT. I was very close to saying Rory and just playing up the Rory Bryson combo, but right. I went JT.
Because I feel like anyone who's listening might think we're just saying we like all these guys, which we do.
We do, but like I think if I have one bullet and I need to pick one of those guys, which I think in a single entry lineup I would go with just one of them, JT.
Yeah, you got to account for expected popularity. With that, I still think I would go Jon Rahm.
Do you want to do a JT versus Rahm?
Sure.
Bet? Okay. FanDuel points straight up. You have Jon Rahm. I have JT. So we have Munoz versus Peters, right? That's the other one?
Yes.
Okay. So we have Munoz versus Peters, JT versus Rahm. Talk to me about your second high salary guy, Daniel Berger at 10-7.
So I was thinking about pivoting to Webb Simpson here because Webb hasn't won a U.S. Open and he's very, very good. But I will stick with Daniel Berger. He's just so good right now, and I think Berger and Webb, and potentially Cantlay, but I'm lower on him. I think I haven't messed around with this enough, but if you play Rahm, or even like maybe you go with Xander in this sort of build for a little bit more savings, but Webb, Berger, and maybe another stud, and go from there because I think Webb and Berger are probably both underpriced. I think Daniel Berger fits winged foot well if you are going with the it's okay if he's not the longest hitter angle. He's accurate. He's 16th in the field and fairways gained over the past 50. He's 10th in approach, 21st in POA putting over a 100-round sample. And I think he's like a viable second golfer in a more balanced build. And if you want to get a little bit more aggressive, mess around with like what I just said with a super stud and possibly Webb and Berger. I don't know what that leaves you with, but
just out of curiosity, if you had to guess, where do you think Patrick Cantlay is in tags on FanShare?
Probably like 40th.
41st. Wow, I don't know how you actually got that. That was I was trying to make it difficult, but people are not on Patrick Cantlay, so I think based on the way the tags are trending, I think I do need to play the distance angle, like do a distance stack, which would push me a bit towards Rory over JT, so maybe I need to change that. I think, like, sometimes it's not having the right plays. It's just like, or to get edges. It's finding ways to be different in the field and just like targeting different kinds of golfers. And like, if I can get different from the field by targeting distance over other stuff, then I'm okay with taking that angle. So maybe I do need to go Rory. I'm still going to stick with JT, but like, I think if people are going to overlook, guys like Cantlay's not even that bad from an accuracy perspective.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump ahead to whenever you ask me if I have any final thoughts, I'm going to just say my final thoughts here. If you're listening and you're saying, no, this is Rory week, or no, this is Justin Thomas, or Xander's finally going to get it, just you can say that about like the top 10 golfers. You can pick the guy you think is your guy this week. You don't have to like listen to us here, because the process between DJ and Rom, it's not very different. It's up to you if you think one guy is that guy this week.
I agree. Trust your gut. I'm going to trust my gut and talk about Bryson DeChambeau as my second highest salary guy, because I've been off of DeChambeau for like the past couple of months when DeChambeau fever caught on, but I think it's a good time to buy in based on the way the course sets up. Again, I want guys who can bomb it while also putting well. And Bryson does both those things. He's second in the field in distance, but he's also 15th in POA putting the past 100 rounds. So if he can do both those things this week, there is a bit extra wiggle room with the approach. There is risk here because the second and third shots have not been great, but every golfer is risky here with the cut rule. So I want to go for that upside, and I want to play the distance angle, it seems like, based on the FanShare tag. So that's my case for Bryson. What are your thoughts on him?
I feel like Bryson's going to win the Masters. I don't think he's going to win the U.S. Open.
So you're not using Bryson because you think he's going to win the Masters?
No, I think that hammering it and putting lights out is going to help him win the Masters. I'll probably change my mind by November, but
which is also wild, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think we can just ignore the accuracy issues right now. I don't think we can ignore the irons and the wedges, more the wedges, because he hits it so far. He's gonna have to club down, I think, at some point if he's not hitting fairways, because
or if he breaks his driver.
But I don't need Bryson to club down, because he's not going to be as good with everyone else as the irons, at least the golfers near him. So I understand it from the differentiation angle, and that Bryson is not some wild card. If he can hone in the driver, he easily could win this thing. I'm just not there, and I prefer a number of other golfers.
All right. I'm not going to use him in the bobblehead, by the way. This is not a cash game play. This is a tournament angle for Bryson. But I think that, like we were talking about the range just below him in like Cantlay, Webb, and Berger, I'd rather find the salary to get to Bryson. If I have a single entry lineup, I want to get the salary up to get up to Bryson. 6 guys between Berger and this next tier we're going to talk about that we haven't really discussed. I think we've only mentioned in passing one of these names. Hideki, Tiger, Fleetwood, Jason Day, Tony Finau, Justin Rose. No? Nah. None? You? Well, when I saw Tony Finau on Instagram with that clubhead speed, I did run out and bet him. Okay. Didn't you bet him to win every major after that?
Pretty much, yeah. I was like, hey, man, with that kind of distance,
Yeah.
but I mean, he might win the Masters.
I mean, he's amazing at Augusta, so
Yeah.
sure.
But
even with half an ankle.
yeah, I won't fault anyone for liking Hideki here, but I'm not really in on anybody else.
See, like the reason that I'm not in on those guys is that at least like Bryson, Rory, and all those guys excel in either distance or accuracy. You don't really get that out of those guys. I mean, after Berger, at least.
I mean, Finau excels in distance.
Oh yeah. Finau does, but I'm so wary of the short.
Fleetwood's always like a light Xander, where he's long enough and he's accurate enough where he like can stick around.
69th in good drives gamed. Nice. Okay, so maybe it's Fleetwood, but no. I'm probably not going there. Let's move down to the mid-range. Who stands out to you between $10,000 and $9,000?
Yeah, what I was going to say and segue into this was I think the reason that I'm okay overlooking those golfers, I probably get to some Finau just for the sake of it, but this tier right below I think is super enticing. Starting with starting really with Patrick Reed, but Tyrrell Hatton here for me at 9,800 on FanDuel. We've talked about this before, but Hatton was like a must play before the layoff and then kind of just fell off in terms of the expectations. But he's gained strokes off the tee and with approach in all three FedEx Cup playoff events. Short game was good, not great, but over the larger 2020 sample, he's about as good as Rory, according to Data Golf, about as good as Webb as well on a per round basis when you adjust for that field strength. So that's really intriguing to me. I know it's a smaller sample, but it's not like Tyrrell Hatton is some, new up-and-comer. Tyrrell Hatton's a really good golfer. He's also a grinder. He can putt. That should matter at winged foot, and so that also applies to Patrick Reed. But again, I'm kind of toying with lineups that do fade the top and really try to maximize my floor, which, again, is very elusive. But instead of getting 3 realistic winners and then jumping down to the 8K range where there's really not winners, trying to get like 5 or 6 guys with some legitimate win equity.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I like Hatton. I would put him second. I think I'm going to put Adam Scott first in this tier. I'll put Hatton second, though, so I do like him. One guy just beneath this range who I like is Matthew Wolff, and he's kind of like Bryson. He kind of fits the bomb, pray, and putt department where he checks those boxes. 7th in field in distance, 45th in POA putting. It is his best surface, too, so that does help him. The approach, as we've talked about a couple of times here on the podcast, has been on the upswing too. Wolff has gained on average 2.3 strokes in approach per event over his past 5. That includes getting 7.3 at the PGA Championship. So Wolff proved he can compete against a good field. This seems like a good setup for him. So I kind of do like taking the distance angle and just stacking golfers who fit that archetype, who can go long, and just kind of hope the rest falls into place and are either good with their approach play or with their putting. Wolff fits that. DeChambeau fits that. Rory fits that because of the second and third shots, not because of the putting. So I kind of like Matthew Wolff. I know you're not in on him. What's the main thing that pushes you away? Or are you?
What makes you think I'm not in on Matthew Wolff?
I just assumed because I was the one selling out for distance that I'd be higher on him than you. Are you in?
I will most likely bet Matthew Wolff.
Oh.
To win outright.
Heck yeah, baby. Let's go.
I was kind of joking that he was a better driver than Rory and Bryson, but like
the distance or the accuracy is better.
Yeah, like he's not that much shorter, if anything. Like he hammers it, and he's pretty accurate, and he's a good putter, which is like that's kind of what Bryson does. He's super long and can putt, which is kind of a rare combination. But Wolff does it, and he might be my favorite play in the 9,000 range.
Really? I am shocked by this, but I am.
But it's because
aroused.
He's long.
I am aroused that you are in on Matthew Wolff.
He is long, but also not completely errant.
Party! Matthew Wolff. Got to win the U.S. Open. Lock it in. Talking about Matt Fitzpatrick, not Matthew.
No, I'm calling him Matthew because
what did he do when we started calling him Matt? Like what were the results here? He finished 6th at the BMW.
Well, What did you do before that?
Don't worry about it.
I like Fitzpatrick because he is, well, honestly, it was down between, because I couldn't get Matthew Wolff here. It was between Fitzpatrick and Victor Hovland, which I think is going to be maybe a common conversation people have with themselves when building lineups. Maybe I'm off base because people won't be in this range. I don't know. For me, it will be. And I'm leaning Fitzpatrick because it's a tough course, and that's when we see the best from Matthew Fitzpatrick. I mentioned John Rahm's 2 tough wins at Olympia Fields and in Muirfield Village. At those events, Fitzpatrick was close behind, 6th and 3rd. He did miss the cut at the PGA by 2 shots. He shot a 74-70 on the par 70 at TPC Harding Park, so definitely not egregious. And we don't need to chase birdies. That suits his game. He is 10th in fairways gained. He is 2nd in putting. I think if you're okay downplaying distance for guys who hit fairways, have some good long irons, and can make putts, Fitzpatrick's really enticing. So I'm in on Fitzpatrick. You seem a little less sold.
Well, I'm annoyed because I was talking about that distance angle lineup. I made it, and I have 1 spot left, and I'm right in this range. And I'm like, Fitzpatrick doesn't fit. He doesn't fit with the narrative. And I'm annoyed because he fits perfectly. But I think I would probably, like, I have the salary.
Did you play Cameron Champ?
No, God, no. I have respect. Yeah.
You can't look for a distance and not play Cameron Champ.
I'm not playing Cameron Champ.
Where did he finish the PGA?
I don't know. I don't care. So in this lineup, this distance lineup, I have the salary to get to Hovland. However, despite that, and Hovland's longer off the tee than Fitzpatrick is, even in this build, I would still go with Fitzpatrick because I am terrified of Hovland putting on a surface that is, I mean, it's partially bent grass, but like I'm terrified of him not on that surface. And I know that that's not going to be a concern for Fitzpatrick. And also, like, at least when he's not going long, he's not spraying it. I mean, I know Hovland won't either, but like that's why I can get behind Matthew Fitzpatrick, mini Webb Simpson. Like I can get behind that at this salary. So I have Fitzpatrick. I feel definitive in putting him above Hovland, and I feel okay with that. So I like Fitzpatrick too.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't know his fan share tags. I can't imagine he'll be super popular.
No, he is.
He is?
He's 10, I think. Yeah, 10.
Well, that's not, again,
Right, he's not prohibitively high. Sorry, I should phrase it that way. You're right.
I'm just surprised by that. Although Bryson's 18th. This is a little bit of a tangent, but the sentiment is only 40% positive. So there you go.
So I do have to use Bryson in a single entry. All right,
yeah,
cool. Well, let's talk about Abraham Answer. He's not long off the tee, so he's kind of contradictory to my angle this week. But the hope for me is that he can kind of fit the Harris English role well enough where he does enough elsewhere to come through. I guess Matt Fitzpatrick fits that too. But Answer 38th in the field in approach and 47th in scrambling the past 50 rounds. So if he does run into issues off the tee, he should be able to make up for it. He's also not a bad POA putter. It is the best surface for Abraham Answer. He grades out as above average in a 61 round sample. The approach in recent events has not been as good, but it could mean that he's due for some meaner version. If we assume that Abraham Answer is an above average approach player, could snap back to that this week, which case he'd be a quality play at $9,200. So I know that I'm talking up like Answer and being okay with Webb, Fitzpatrick, Berger, I'm going counter to like my distance angle, but I do value guys who can put it on the fairway. Like I want you to be good at one of them, I think is kind of the way I'm saying this in a very, very roundabout way. But what are your thoughts about Answer?
Yeah, I like him. I know a lot of the golfers I mentioned in this like mid salary range are a little bit toward the upper part of the 9,000s, but Answer's kind of the only name in the low 9,000s who draws my attention. He's top 40 in putting, approach, and off the tee. We know he's accurate, so I will be building lineups based on accurate golfers. Answer fits that with a little bit more. It's not like he just is going to hit fairways and then who knows. So I'm in on Answer, another golfer who was super hot for a while when everyone was in on.
Yeah.
But that's now not the case.
And although I'm talking about building, distance lineups, I also think that there is value in playing the other way and having some lineups where I stack guys who are good with their approach play or with their accuracy. So it does, like, the archetype stack goes both ways, and I think there's value in that. And Answer fits very well with the accuracy one, but I'm not willing to omit him. I'm not going to omit him from builds where I go with this, just because he does enough elsewhere to still be in play there. Let's move down to the value range, guys who are $9,000 and lower. Brandon, down here, who stands out to you?
I don't have a ton of confidence really in any of these golfers, but I think Bubba Watson deserves some attention at 8,900. He has one positive putting surface, according to Fantasy National, and that's POA. Again, the greens are supposed to be about 80% POA, 20% bent grass. He's 48th in the field in POA putting over the past 100 rounds, so not elite by any means, but he can hit it long. He fits that bomber build. He's 11th there in distance gained over the past 50. I looked at, and I don't know how predictive this will be, but I tried to look at, because Fantasy National lets you do this kind of stuff, fairways gained under average and difficult conditions when the rough is difficult, just to see who actually hits fairways whenever it's very problematic to miss fairways. He's 82nd there. He's 81st in just overall fairways gained. So I don't know. I'd have to look at that a little closer to see if there's really any differences. But I think Bubba, if you're playing distance, he can putt well enough. I think, you can't trust him, but I think he's a way to differentiate without getting too weird.
Yeah, I think that Bubba makes sense. Not a guy who I feel the need to prioritize right now, but I'm not off of him by any means. So let's talk about Thomas Pieters, who I am prioritizing. We talked about him before due to the lack of form, but his results in the Euro Tour are enough to convince me to take a swing on him here, because the long-term numbers on him are really, really good. Over the past 50 rounds, Pieters is 5th in distance, 22nd in approach, and 21st in scrambling. He's also been a plus putter on POA. The sample there obviously not going to be huge because he doesn't play that often on the PGA Tour. But again, this is all from a long time ago, so it could be shaky. But both the results and the stats in the Euro Tour are really good. So I think he's a rock-solid play at $8,500. Brandon, I know that you're not in on Pieters, so who else are you checking out in this value range?
Well, I for sure seriously like Will Zalatoris, and I will be using him. But I like Sebastian Munoz at 8,000. He's probably going to be the lowest that I go. Mm-hmm. But he is 79th off the tee, 43rd in approach, 54th around the green. The putting isn't great, but he's actually a neutral POA putter, according to Fantasy National splits. And I know it's exciting to chase some of these lesser known entities, but I kind of know what I'm getting from Munoz, and at best, it's really good tee to green and potentially putting performance. He's rated out about as well as Tommy Fleetwood and Justin Rose in 2020. I know that's kind of a strange thing, because Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose definitely not lighting it up in 2020, but Munoz playing as well as those guys on a downswing. And obviously there's a huge gap in pricing between the two, or between the three, I should say. So Munoz, not a cash game play, but I wouldn't hate it if I loved the rest of my lineup, which I would.
I think that he's in play for sure. We were talking about how we want golfers who can do well with distance or accuracy. Munoz, 58th in distance, which is not terrible for this range. 53rd in fairways gained and 58th in good drives gained. So he's not a negative in any of those departments. So while I was nitpicking with Hideki for not excelling in any of them, Hideki is 10-something and Munoz is 8,000. To know that there's not a major negative in that range, I think is helpful. So I think that Munoz is an option for me too. My low 8,000 guy is Erik van Rooyen, because Erik van Rooyen, we know, can boogie with the ball striking. The question is, can he putt? And the sample on van Rooyen on POA is very small. It is 24 rounds, and that's too much to go on. However, I'd rather he not suck in a small sample than suck in a small sample, and he's actually gained strokes in that time. So, could be something. And if Van Royen can simply be less terrible with his putting, he has the potential to go off. He has a distance. He's 44th in distance. Another guy who can do well when he needs to, 27th in good drives gained, 29th in approach. And that approach play has been more inconsistent recently. So Van Royen is not a guy who fits a cash game lineup, but he's got the upside we want for tournaments. So I'm willing to risk it here. Brandon, Erik Van Royen, does he do anything for you?
Yeah, he's a little bit of an afterthought pivot for tournaments. Just not even like a pivot, but just I can't play all Sebastian Munoz.
Yeah.
We know he can't putt. The POA splits are obviously promising, but according to Data Golf, he is about Tony Finau off the tee in 2020, and Adam Scott with the irons. It just kind of can all fall apart from there. So it's really enticing.
Why would you tell me that? You're going to make me way overconfident in Erik Van Royen now.
Well, that's the problem with Van Royen and
Nope.
getting
the POA putting. It's definitely going to stick.
I think he's a good play relative to the salary.
I go Peters over Van Royen, but I like both of them. I'd probably put both a hair ahead of Munoz, but I think they're all in play, which is scary because I think Zalatoris is fine too. So I think a build that I will probably have a decent amount this week is having one of these golfers down here in order to avoid the low 9,000 range where it's basically answer and nothing else. So I think that's something I'll try to play this week is go into a range I like in order to avoid a range I do not.
Yeah. There's no reason to force any particular salaries here. And sorry, I just noticed Ricky Fowler, and we didn't say his name, I don't think.
You did say it once. I heard it.
Oh, okay.
But yes, I think that there are enough options here where I feel pretty good with what we talked about before, where you can avoid golfers you think will be super popular because there are probably good golfers around them. Outside of Answer, I think that one's kind of sketchy. Like there aren't a lot of guys I like in that tier, but you've got options in each salary tier, and I find that very comforting.
Yeah, and there's nothing forcing you to play someone in that salary range. Just change your lineup a bit.
Yep, agreed.
Or I mean, again, if there's no reason to think that the salaries are perfect. If you don't like Abe Answer, but you have like 92 left, you can just play someone at like 87 or 86 and waste some salary. It's going to be a good way to differentiate. Not that there will be a lot of duplicate lineups, I don't think, but
no. But if you think that's the optimal lineup and it leaves out on the table, then do it. Yeah. Like, don't use a better play or a worse play just because they have a higher salary.
Yeah, that's
win picks. I don't know who won the bobble hat.
You know.
I don't win it often enough where I need to take advantage of one.
Well, you've been winning a lot lately.
I need to take advantage of times I do win. So we're gonna go. Did I lop DJ and Rom off or no?
No, we gotta include them. We can do 3 win picks.
No.
Okay.
That violates the sanctity of the win pick segment. How dare you even suggest?
It violates the sanctity, although you get to pick DJ when he gets a 10-stroke advantage.
Sorry for winning the bobble hat the week before. Be better, okay? Be better.
Also, one week I was traveling, I 100%, it was my turn to pick, and I would have picked JT the week he won.
Totally. But absolutely. I believe you. Totally. Most trustworthy. I'm picking DJ, so deal with it. The second golfer is 60 to 1 or longer. So sorry, you can't get Justin Rose. He's the only guy between 50 and 60. So
60?
Yeah.
I will go with my boy Matthew Wolff.
Oh man. That really makes it tough.
I mean, you could have picked Wolff and John Rahm like I'm about to get, so.
Okay, so you have Rahm.
I mean, I won't bet John Rahm at those odds, but for the purposes of trying to pick a winner, I will pick John Rahm.
So I don't think we talked about this person. You mentioned him in passing, but Gary Woodland is kind of interesting at 80-1. Distance, approach play. The putting isn't good, but like I think it's less bad on POA than other surfaces, if I'm recalling correctly for Woodland. Like he's at least not hideous. So I think I'm gonna go Woodland.
You sound very confident in last year's U.S. Open champ.
I know, but like he's gonna have the trophy. The trophy's gonna be in his caddy's bag the entire time. That's gonna weigh him down. Like that seems kind of like a burden. I don't know.
I mean, he's starting to figure out the driver. It was real bad in the return. He's kind of been about neutral since the PGA, since and including the PGA, I should say.
I really should have gone Wolfenraum. That was stupid. Ugh, idiot. It's like you won the bobblehead, but you didn't. Man, giving you advantages when you don't deserve them. So I have DJ and Woodland.
And the irony here, I have John Rahm and Matthew Wolff.
The irony is what?
That I have John Rahm more likely to win than DJ outright anyway.
Just like start this over. I know we've been going for an hour and 21 minutes. This is egregious. But let's start it over so I can redo the win picks. I'm sorry, Cal, you had to sit through another hour and 20 minutes. We're done. We're starting over. The YouTube stream, I see all of you. You never happened because like we have to start over. So sorry. Deal with it. Okay, fine. I will stick with DJ and Woodland. You will stick with Rahm and Wolf. Any final thoughts for you, Brandon, for this week?
Well, I pretty much already gave them, but this is a week where nothing's safe, so don't feel like you have to play some golfer who everyone's talking about as like the super great value play or super great stud, because anyone can miss the cut. And again, I mentioned this at the top of the show, but there aren't going to be a lot of birdies, so fantasy points will come a lot from finishing position. So you need to have the winner, and you need to hit a lot of top tens. So trust yourself and be okay saying maybe Dustin Johnson doesn't win, so I'm going to avoid him because I'm only playing like 3 lineups.
I think that also plays into the exposure angle at the top end, because like if X percentage of the points come from finishing points, only one person's going to get 30 points for the win.
Yeah.
So like that helps you justify lowering your exposure because, you need that 30-point bump. So that's another angle for this week. That is all the time that we have for today. The U.S. Open coming up on Thursday. It is going to be a delight. Make sure you get those FanDuel lineups in. Get them set before Thursday morning so you can have some fun throughout this weekend. Do not forget we have our Week 1 NFL DFS recap podcast already posted on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, and our Week 2 preview coming up on Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern on YouTube and on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed immediately after that. Brandon, if people have questions for you on Twitter, where can they find you there?
I'm at Gdula13, GDULA13.
And I am at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer from the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck with your U.S. Open lineups. Enjoy, have some fun, and hopefully win yourself some money on Sunday. This has been Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire.